What's going on, everybody? I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
And welcome back to We Are the Batman. Today we're doing something, it's, again, just kind of like with this show, we're just coming up with new ideas, and this one's a little bit different. You've listened to podcasts in the past where they've debated remaking a certain movie, but today we're not going to remake a movie so much as we're going to re-sequel a movie.
Yes.
We're gonna take another shot at creating a sequel for a movie, a Batman movie specifically. I know, go figure. And we're gonna start off by making a new sequel to Matthew's Batman movie of choice. And which one is that?
That is Batman Forever, starring Val Kilmer as Batman.
Odd choice. I will admit it's a bit of an odd choice. I think of all the ones to. Oh, okay, it's probably not that odd when you consider how bad the sequel to this movie actually is. If anything needs a new sequel, it is definitely this movie. So what was it that led you to choosing this movie to get a new sequel?
I mean, honestly, up until the Nolan Batman movies, this was my favorite Batman of those first four. And then on top of that, even to this day, I mean, it's kind of a little in question because of the Batman and what Pattinson did, but I still stand by. I think Val Kilmer played the character the most true to what the comic was at that time. It's a little, different when you go before that, but the whole idea of Batman dresses up as Bruce Wayne. And I think Kilmer, whether he intentionally or unintentionally did that, I think he did the best version of that. So this has always been my best movie, but I have also always said, or my favorite movie, but I've also always said, like, the Batman parts. I will not defend any of the villains in this movie in any way, shape, or form. They're horrible.
How do you feel about Nicole Kidman's role in this movie?
I think she does what she's supposed to. This movie's kind of a mixed bag. Whereas I think it is the most Batman of any of the Batman movies of those first four. There's definitely odd decisions, and he's treated like a James Bond character in that every movie there's a different girl. And that's part of when we talk about my sequel that I'm going to change. But I thought she did a good job. I mean, she's not asked to do much. And given how much time is spent with all of the various villains and other characters in this movie, even if she did do a good job, it's on the cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say it, because I think of very specific scenes in this movie where it's clear they were trying to go for more of the less damsel in distress up to a certain point in the movie, because it starts off with her being feisty and seductive and having this weird attraction to Batman, but we see her doing kickboxing and stuff in her office and showing that she's kind of a badass a little bit, like they were trying to pick up after that the Michelle Pfeiffer thing a little bit, but then in the last third of the film, she just turns into just another pretty girl for Batman to rescue. It's like they started to, and then they gave up.
It is weird because it's kind of weird to say this way. It's been a long time since I've watched this movie from beginning to end, but I remember at the end when they're getting attacked in Wayne Manor, she does kind of do stuff. But it also is like she's struggling, and then Bruce Wayne slides across the table and kicks the dude who's touching her. So, she's trying.
Yeah, I think it's that scene specifically where it's like, okay, and then it falls apart at the end, and then it never gets back up.
Correct. Yes.
So let's go ahead and get into this thing, because I'm really curious to hear what you have in mind for us. So we are now operating in a universe, ladies and gentlemen. This is the timeline where Batman and Robin didn't exist. And I want everyone to just imagine for a second a world where Batman and Robin didn't exist. It's nice, right? It's a nice world to live in.
It's a lovely world.
So now we are living in, let's see. So Batman Forever came out in 1995. So we're around like 1996, 1997, because is where we're kind of sitting here, because it was back when Batman and Robin came out, was like 97. So that's the world we're living in now, and we have to create a sequel to Batman Forever in 1997 with the toys we have to play with, and Matthew Hasso is the one guiding us on this journey. Matthew, please.
Yes. So the big thing, it's kind of funny. There's a couple different things I want to point out. Number one, this movie made $386 million, which was considered a bona fide hit and made more than the two previous Batman movies.
That's over 300 million in 1995.
Correct. So it's like 500 million now.
Yeah.
But my point is that it's weird to think that if a comic movie made that money here, it would be considered a flop.
For especially for a Batman movie, for a comic book movie,
yes,
in this day and age, like, yeah, that's not, unless it was like Deadpool where it was made for like 50 million. Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah. Well, because this movie is so successful, they fast track a sequel, because usually so far before this movie, there'd been 3 years between Batman movies. This is definitely during a time where they're not making a new movie every year when it comes to comic books. So they fast track it. And because they fast track it and they're trying to go after those dollars, they inundate Joel Schumacher with directives. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get Batman and Robin. So we're not even going to touch that. So my thing with this is that this is a Joel Schumacher who is allowed to do what he wants to do with a sequel. And so 97, 98 maybe is when he makes this movie.
Okay.
So it's always interesting that when I've done this kind of stuff in the past of like thinking about what actors were either up and coming or big at the time.
And by the way, I found an inflation calculator online. If you convert that $336.6 million to 2022, that is $638.5 million.
Which is around what Justice League made and was considered a complete and total failure.
Yeah, make that make sense. Anyway.
Yeah. So with that in mind, especially because through these first movies, a lot of the actors stay. I am going to keep Pat Hingle as Gordon, even though I don't particularly like him, but he's been with the franchise. I'm going to keep him. Keep Michael Gough as Alfred. And I want to do what they had not done yet, is I want to bring Nicole Kidman back as Chase Meridian and continue.
Really?
Yes, I do. Because I feel like, number one, it leads into my story. But number two, like, it would be nice to see the relationship continue, because Batman ends, the first one ends with, like, it seems like Vicky Vale and Batman are fine, and then she's not in the next movie.
Right.
This movie ends with them kind of being fine. So it would be nice to see her actually come back and not do the James Bond thing where he, just kind of sees the girl, bangs her, and then at the end of the movie she's gone, and the next movie he has a new chick.
Okay.
So I just thought that might be more interesting, because I mean, there's a flip side, and this is where we'll get into my story of, like, if she's a doctor and she moved to Gotham to do these things, just because even if her and Batman broke up, it's not like she leaves.
Right.
I broke up, I guess I'm going to leave the town and leave my job. Yeah, most people don't do that. I'm going to keep Chris O'Donnell as Robin. He's not great, but he's not horrible enough for me to be like, let's get rid of him. And of course, my favorite, I keep Val Kilmer as Batman.
Okay, so the principal cast, you keep the same stars, and the same, for now we'll call it a love interest. So for the most part, the principal cast is staying the same.
Yes, part of why I want to do a sequel is because I want to see all these people back.
Okay.
And it kind of goes in line. Like I said, they've already established a lot of these guys. So let's just keep them and have fun and do something that usually happens is Gordon's in like 3 scenes and then we never see him again. Which
is why I think you can keep Pat Hingle, because at the end of the day, Gordon in these movies never really does much. I think the most he does is in the first Michael Keaton movie, honestly. So it's kind of harmless to just keep him around because, what does he do?
Well, and honestly, up until Batman Year One, Gordon is kind of that guy. He talks to Batman, but he's not on the daily adventures with him. He's not doing any things. And, he's commissioner, but they don't give any semblance of him being any kind of formidable presence until you get into Batman Year One, when they tell more of Gordon's, origin. You're like, oh, no, yeah, He would have to be capable. He's a cop who made it up the ranks.
Mhm.
So egregious, yes, but at the same time, let's just keep going with it because it's worked so far in the movies.
And Michael Gough as Alfred is a gem.
Yes,
He's
yes,
so good.
no problems. And him and Val Kilmer had great chemistry in the movies before, especially because they were good buddies in Top Secret. So reuniting two actors is fun.
I forgot they were in that together.
Yeah, you'd have enough salt to for the adult country.
Well, you know what? Michael Gough as Alfred has good chemistry with all the Batmans. Honestly, like I think he's good with all of them.
When you're a solid actor, you have good chemistry with everybody.
It's true. That's true.
So all right. So then, what my story would be, and why I wanted to keep Chase Meridian, and kind of going in some of the stuff we've talked about or some gifts you may have received lately, is I want my entire movie to take place at Arkham. And I may even want to call it Batman Arkham Asylum or Batman A Night in Arkham, and with a K, And what happens is that Scarecrow, my plot is this, is the opening of the movie is Batman and Robin taking out the ventriloquist. And
you had the ventriloquist.
Yep. They take the ventriloquist out. They put him in Arkham, and when they put him there, Chase Meridian, Nicole Kidman's character, goes there to work with him. While she's there, of course, she sees the Riddler, who is completely crazy. And then she is working with a new kind of intern-ish character called Dr. Quinzel. And what you find out is, as the movie kind of progresses, is that Scarecrow ends up taking over Arkham with the help of all these different people, and Dr. Quinzel is kind of in on it. And the movie becomes Batman and Robin having to go into Arkham to put all these criminals back in their places, to go through this maze of what Arkham is, and ultimately defeat Scarecrow before he releases the toxin all over the place. So you have like a Arkham that has nothing but toxin in it. So all of these villains are totally nuts, and they're trying to fight their way through to stop Scarecrow, and also to save Chase Meridian.
Okay.
So now the cool thing about my story is it brings a lot of things in. You can kind of have you can have Harley Quinn. Scarecrow is a character who had not been done before. You can bring back the Riddler for some quick scenes. The ventriloquist can kind of come in and out with his madness, and then pardon me. But I think it kind of lends to, it doesn't have to be super dark, but it does kind of be, it's more of a concise story. And, there's absolutely no reason for there to be neon in an insane asylum, so we don't have to have any of that stuff.
Oh, they'd find a way. Especially if you're going to have Scarecrow hallucinations.
That's true. That's true.
So it's interesting because I think you've said you've never really played the Batman Arkham video games, have you?
I played, I believe, Arkham City. I played a little bit, not a lot, not enough to know. Like, I know, being in the zeitgeist of all the geekdom, I know the story beats and what happens in every single one of them, but I've never actually played them beyond like 20 minutes, if that makes sense.
No, that's fine, because what you're describing, and I don't mean this as a dig at all, just a statement of fact, is it sounds like a slightly blended elements of the Arkham Asylum video game and the Arkham Knight video game, because in the Arkham Knight video game, Scarecrow is very much the main villain. He's unleashing fear toxin on people, and in Arkham Asylum, he's there, and you have to go through the occasional like fear toxin hallucination challenge map. And so that's interesting, because it's elements of that I really like, and having all these different having to kind of keep the island of Arkham Asylum under control is a really cool, interesting way when you mix it with Scarecrow to make it kind of a horror film.
Well, and I also kind of unlike the comics, when they're making these movies, they don't think past the movies. So all the other characters have been used, like, Joker died. in the first
Yeah, no,
Batman movie.
he
Can't,
is dead.
can't bring him back. Can't bring Two-Face back. He died,
Yeah.
and I did not want to touch any of the characters from the alleged Batman and Robin movie. So I wanted to go in a completely different
We
route.
live in a time where that didn't happen, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Well, and the funny thing too is like after I came up with this idea and I cast it and I started looking at like what was going on. There was a proposed fifth Batman movie that is very similar to the movie I came up with that Joel Schumacher wanted to make, but because Batman and Robin is not successful, they cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, hopefully nobody comes after me for this. But yeah, so that was kind of my storyline that I thought of. That would be a fun, a way to do a story that would not lean more into the ridiculousness that Batman and Robin does, but also keep it kind of dark. Like I said, it doesn't have to go super dark,
Right.
definitely have some intensity. And look, part of what I love Batman Forever for, beyond the previous two Batman movies, is that Batman actually got to do cool action scenes. He's acrobatic. He can actually fight. He does cool kicks. And to see more of that, and Chris O'Donnell or the Robin character do all that stuff with them, I think would be crazy, because this is now 98, 99, or 97, 98. This is post Rumble in the Bronx. So the Asian invasion is happening.
Right.
So if you're not bogged down into the ridiculousness, you could kick in the action with the martial arts. And I think that would be a lot of fun if, WB leaves him alone and lets him does what he wants.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, yeah.
Which, knowing what we know nowadays, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who's doing what here, because you've introduced quite a few interesting characters, and I'm really curious to hear. So we know that the principal cast is hanging around: Val Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell, Nicole Kidman. The first one you mentioned, the first one that made me scratch my head, is Ventriloquist. Now, this is a character that I'm a big fan of, that I have long said could not work in a Batman movie. So, sell me on this. What are we doing here?
The Ventriloquist, what I think about is, now, memory serves, did you read the Nightwing run from the 90s that Scott McDaniel was drawing?
That was one of the first series I started collecting, actually.
Okay. Do you remember when Ventriloquist is in that and he doesn't have the dummy, so he has the sock on his hand?
Oh, yeah.
So ultimately, what you're dealing with is the Ventriloquist is schizophrenic. He has two personalities. And because they play with it in the comic back and forth. Sometimes it seems like it's supernatural. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's actually he has, he's got multiple personalities. So I'm leaning into that, and that this puppet is his escape to do what he wants.
So almost like what we had with Moon Knight, where it's just this whole other person that he's kind of becoming and communicating with.
Correct. And you could almost say that, like, even though he puts a sock on his hand to do the puppet, when he's talking to it in his mind, he sees the puppet that he had created.
Right.
Yeah, depending on how crazy you want to be. But I thought what would be fun is it's a psychological villain that, like, more often than not, Batman's way to defeat a villain is to beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, pretty much.
So to have a villain that maybe that's how you have to defeat him. So to defeat him at the top and then have him come back, and then you have to figure out another way to defeat this guy. Or maybe he's changed so much while he's there. Who knows? But I cast Tim Roth as the Ventriloquist. So
wow.
You got to think this is Four Rooms era. This is Rob Roy era.
This is not far removed from Reservoir Dogs.
Not far removed from Reservoir, a couple years after that. So this is around that time frame where he's up and coming, and he's putting in amazing performances, but he hasn't become the stereotypical villain he becomes in the early 2000s.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
You're good. I'm picturing this in my head right now. It's yeah.
Oh, I should have muted that. Sorry.
You're good. I'll cut around it.
It's like whatever these headphones do to cancel out sound has just put the vacuum of my head in extreme. All right, I'm back. Ready?
Yeah, good.
3, 2, 1. But I really think about his character in Four Rooms, who has like this kind of weird quirkiness to him. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
It's been a bit, but yeah.
yeah, he just kind of, because he's the maitre d' that goes through all of those different storylines.
Yeah.
So given that kind of weird, like I'm not a superhero, I'm not super dangerous, I'm just kind of this random guy who's going through this situation, and the puppet is the dangerous guy, I think would be fun, and I think he'd be able to eat it up.
Yeah, because at around the time this we're talking 97 is when Batman and Robin came out. So we'll play with the idea this comes out in 1997. I mean, he's doing Deceiver, he's doing Hoodlum, Gridlocked. Four Rooms is in 95, so it's as well as Rob Roy.
Yeah.
And Pulp Fiction was the year before that in 94. So and I think the role he plays in Pulp Fiction as part of that couple that is taking over, is trying to take over the diner or whatever. I think that role in particular is one that they'd be looking at specifically as okay, so maybe this guy, especially when he's got to do the personality of Scarface, would play into that really well.
Yeah, and that's where and honestly, dude, I'm gonna take it really far back and just say, Tim Roth had me at Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Like it wasn't until the second time I watched that I was like, oh hey, that's Gary Oldman.
I haven't seen that in probably almost 2 decades. I haven't seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead in probably 20 years.
I love that movie. It's so ridiculous but great.
I need to go back and watch that now.
But makes absolutely no sense if you don't know Hamlet. So
none whatsoever. Yeah,
we started watching it, and Ryan, my wife, was like, I don't understand what's happening. I was like, oh, it's Hamlet. She's like, I never read Hamlet. I was like, all right. So I stopped it. We went and rented Hamlet with Kenneth Branagh, watched that, and then went back and watched Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And then she was laughing because it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So Tim Roth as the ventriloquist, as Arnold, as what's it, Arnold
Palmer? No, that's the
no. Wow, not even close. Like Wesker or Weskler or something like that.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And he's not going to be like he's a main role in this, kind of like he comes back.
He's the cold opening guy who keeps coming back while they're going through Arkham. Like he's one of the guys they run into again, but he's not the main villain.
Okay.
Like I said, he's like the cold open the first 20, 30 minutes. I mean, you think about like, what's it called? When you think about Batman Forever, like Two-Face is the cold opening, but then he doesn't come back until halfway through the movie.
That's true.
So that would be kind of like this. It's like once they're in Arkham, maybe at one point they run into him, and now he's something they have to get past because he's got revenge on his mind with him. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So that's kind of where I would put him. And, however often they want to bring him in, but I would just say like maybe he's got 2 or 3 scenes at the end where maybe he's him and, his quote unquote puppet and whoever he's Arnold Wesker is his name, by the way.
Oh, Wesker. Okay.
But, or whatever gang he's created in there, they're chasing Batman and Robin and maybe, kind of pull a little a la Colt where Robin says like, look, we're not going to be able to outrun these guys. I'm going to have to stop and fight them. You go do this.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, so yeah. All right. So my other guy, go ahead.
No, so that gets us through the ventriloquist. But let's get to the main meat of this thing. Let's get into, all right, who's playing your Scarecrow?
This one was kind of a weird find because, what usually happens when I'm doing this stuff, back when I was doing it for Fanboy Junction, is like I think of somebody, especially when it's older, like doing this kind of like older casting and going, this guy, and then you look at their IMDb and you're like, no, because honestly, what I was originally thinking about was Russell Crowe, but realizing like he's 6 months from Gladiator, he's too big by this point. But
yeah, that's true.
But LA Confidential's like a year before this. And his co-star, which we talked about, and then we said no to because of things. So I went with his other co-star, which is Guy Pearce.
Interesting.
So getting into a doctor who is good looking, suave, nice, puts that scarecrow mask on, completely different situation. So almost like the what is opposite of Batman? I forgot what that word is called, but like he could be like the guy who's maybe he's actually a doctor at Arkham and
he's
doing like
Batman.
Yeah. He's nice, he's good looking, he's Chase's coworker. Maybe there's a weird like, oh, you're dating Bruce Wayne. I thought we could date, blah blah, whatever. I don't know. And then of course he, becomes the villain or is the villain of the story. I don't know if it's revealed beginning, maybe middle, that he's actually Scarecrow who's been doing this stuff, But I just think, thinking about something like Memento, where he's just, plays that weird offness a little bit. And then, but I also just like him. Like he's always good in everything I've seen him in.
Right. I like Guy Pearce a lot. Like I don't like Iron Man 3, but I do like Guy Pearce in it. I think he does a good, convincing villain, especially when you get the hair slicked back and those glasses on him. I think that he's a very good villain. I'm pulling up his filmography here. Yeah, you said LA Confidential is right around this time. He only played Errol Flynn in the Flynn biopic, which is funny. But yeah, like a couple years later is Memento. The Time Machine is not long after that. The Count of Monte Cristo, he plays Mondego. He's a guy with a lot of range and a lot of variation in what he can do. And he's also just kind of, like you said, like he's just kind of a good looking, charming guy. And I think that helps play into the fear elements of Scarecrow really well. He can be very disarming.
Yeah. Cause like, look, Cillian Murphy's a great actor, but he's just born to be a villain.
100%. 100%.
The moment he steps on screen, it's like, no, that's a Scarecrow. That's a bad guy. We need to get out of here right now.
Yeah.
And then, so Harley Quinn, Dr. Quinzel, I kind of feel bad that I'm bringing her in, but I feel like at this time she is really becoming popular. The cartoon has been out for a while. Mad Love has been released. I think there's something you can do with this. And even if she's just an intern who at the end of it all has some kind of bad reaction to the fear toxin and becomes the villain at the very end of the movie, and that's your sequel, I have no idea. But I super cheated. I may have just created this role to put one of my favorite actresses of all time into this movie, and that's Carla Gugino.
Oh, okay.
She's awesome. And even though I think she's just gorgeous and fantastic, she is a fantastic actress. And this is like, not want to say her prime, but this is as she's coming up. This is Snake Eyes. This is right before she does Spy Kids.
Well, she does Son-in-Law. She does she does Michael, which is the John Travolta Angel movie. This is around the time where she does Love Life. I mean, she is popping up everywhere. She's the voice of a lot of people know she's the voice of Delilah in Homeward Bound 2, not Homeward Bound 1, just Homeward Bound 2. She's popping up all over the place around this time.
An interesting side note, she is the voice of the ship in Man of Steel.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. But also around this time, like she in TV wise, like she had been in Quantum Leap and she had been in The Wonder Years and
Spin City.
Spin City, Doogie Howser, an episode of that short-lived Ferris Bueller TV show that existed, kids. She's popping up everywhere at the time. So this is where she really, I mean, you said she's really just showing up left and right. So, and then obviously years later she would play Sally Jupiter in Watchmen, but this is kind of when she's really on everyone's radar.
Well, and she's one of those rare actresses, like you're saying right now, but even thinking about like she's never not working. And I'm
Yeah.
really surprised she has never become bigger. But she is.
Me too.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, because she has been the lead of like 4 or 5 different TV shows.
Yeah.
You know, she's always fantastic for all the reasons and everything she's in. Um, you know, because nobody
Yeah.
could pull off Sally Jupiter's original costume like she could. I'm sorry, just not going to happen.
That's a hard costume to pull off.
Yeah,
I mean, it just is, and not be ridiculous.
And I did have a weird moment at one point, and you may need to cut this out, where like looking at pictures of Carla Gugino and looking at my wife and going like, do I like Carla Gugino because she reminds me of my wife? Or did I marry my wife because she reminds me of Carla Gugino?
That's funny. That's funny.
So
I'm still leaving that in. That's funny.
She knows, so it's okay.
Well, but like you say, I mean, she continues to get work to this day. I mean, you said she was the voice of the computer in Man of Steel and BVS and Justice League. She actually did it again in an episode of Supergirl.
Well, and she's also has her own show, Jet, which ran for I think 2 seasons.
I don't even think it ran that long. I think it only ran like 9 episodes.
No, I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, point is, she is always there. She's always been working. She's, be in the geeky kind of stuff, comic book movies, or just, indie stuff. She continues to work and continues to be great.
Well, she still is. I mean, Netflix is currently working on a Fall of the House of Usher miniseries, and she's going to be in that along with Bruce Greenwood. They announced that, I think, last year or earlier this year. She was in that Haunting of Hill House series that was on Netflix, which was terrifying, by the way. Like, it was so good that they brought her back as the in another role in the second season. So yeah, she never stopped. It's just, yeah, it's shocking she was never bigger because she is always working. She's one of those people you can just count on to be in stuff.
Well, and given how much consistent work she gets, she probably doesn't need to be bigger. She's getting paid.
Yeah, no, she's fine. She's paying the bills. She's good. She's good.
And then, honestly, as far as director, I would keep Joel Schumacher. Like, as much as people want to poo-poo him or crap on him for Batman and Robin, like Lost Boys,
See, Lost Boys is so good.
I still stand by, like, if you get rid of the villains, Batman Forever is really good. Like, the first 10 minutes of Batman Forever are the most Batman has ever been up until, I would say, the recent Batman movie.
Well, and like, Tell Me a Time to Kill isn't a good movie.
Yeah.
Tell Me a Time to Kill isn't a good movie. Well, the Client's a good movie. Tommy Lee Jones, Susan Sarandon, that's a good movie. The dude's made good movies. It's just, sometimes you make ones that are so bad they define the rest of your career. And I'm looking at you, Batman and Robin. And his Phantom of the Opera is not good. But I actually like the number 23, that Jim Carrey horror movie.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's really not. Granted, he also made Phone Booth, and I can't fucking stand Phone Booth at all. But he was a director on several episodes of House of Cards.
Yeah, I mean, you look St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, The Client. Yeah. I don't mind that Phantom of the Opera, but that's just because I'm a sucker for singing Leonidas.
He's the reason I don't really like that movie. But anyway,
look, bro, he directed DC Cab. What are we talking about here?
Anyway, thank you for listening to the last episode of the show.
No, here's another look, 8mm. Like, that movie was weird, but it was intense. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Well, and for that to be the first thing he does after Batman and Robin too.
Yeah.
After Batman and Robin, he kind of didn't do anything for a bit because that's how much Batman and Robin tanked. But I mean, Joel Schumacher was a good director. He just made some crap. That's all. It happens. Every director makes a stinker. There is no director with a flawless filmography. Find me one. Even Steven Spielberg has a bad movie.
No, who was the other guy? Dwight H. Little.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
I know his
he,
movies.
you have no idea, do you?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
He directed Rapid Fire and Mark for Death. He did a bunch of martial arts movies.
All right, whatever.
But it's
Well,
just
but like, I mean, Spielberg directed The Lost World.
yeah,
Which, look, it's not the worst Jurassic Park sequel. Not a good movie.
correct. Yeah,
It's not a good. I'm sorry. The Tom Cruise War of the Worlds. It's really not a good movie. It's just not.
yeah.
But I digress. So we're sticking with Joel Schumacher directing this Batman Forever sequel. What are we calling this thing?
I mean, I would go Batman, not A Night in Arkham, but that might be a little too much.
It's the mid '90s. I don't think they were doing
yeah, they want the
elaborate titles like that.
I don't know. I'd go Batman Terror, Batman Arkham.
Or what if it was just Batman Asylum?
I mean, you could do that.
Or yeah, Batman Arkham. You know, because the thing is, when you call it something like Batman Arkham, you know, people who, because at the time, again, comic book movies aren't popular. So calling it Batman Arkham is probably going to have the general public scratching their head like, well, what does that mean? But if you call it Batman Asylum,
yeah,
or, you know, I don't know, Batman Fear,
Batman Triumphant. I don't know.
something like that. But yeah, Batman's Revenge. I don't know. No, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of options you can go with. It's just trying to title something the way they would call it in the '90s when geek culture was not a thing.
Yeah, Batman Continues.
Batman Strikes Back, Returns Again.
yeah, Batman Strikes. That would be a good one. Actually, it sounds dumb, but
it sounds incredibly '90s.
Yeah, it would be very.
Because I mean, let's be honest. Like, what the hell kind of a name for a movie is Batman Forever?
Yeah,
like seriously, like honestly, it's if it was the fourth movie, sure, but it wasn't. It was the third. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's just the title.
Yeah, but no, that's where I think it would go, and it would be. I think you'd have a lot of fun, and like, you know, give Chris O'Donnell the time to actually be Robin again, and you know, let Val Kilmer play with an action version of Batman. I mean, I know he's not the guy who's doing most of the fighting in the movie, but I still think his performance is great. And there is allegedly a Schumacher director's cut of this movie.
That's what I've heard.
And Schumacher said it's there, but he didn't want to release it. But I think like either his kid or somebody associated with him is now trying to push it to and I'm back and forth. I've seen some of the deleted scenes. They're not great.
I'd rather they just release the deleted scenes. I don't need, and I'm someone who was very much a fan of the championing the Snyder cut, but like, you know, I don't need a super director's cut of every movie. I think in this one in particular, with as far removed as it is, it's like unless because like with the Snyder cut, it was a vastly different movie.
Yes.
So unless you're going to put out something that is akin to a vastly different movie, just release the deleted scenes.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and you're right. The director's cut are always kind of back and forth. Like the Payback director's cut is crap, but the Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is amazing. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be mine. Batman Strikes, starring Val Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell, Nicole Kidman, Pat Hingle, and Michael. Why am I doing it? You've got the voice, bro.
Because you're the one who's got all the stuff in front of you. I can't remember everything. You do it.
Let's see. Batman Strikes, starring Val Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell, Nicole Kidman, reprising their roles as Gordon and Alfred, Pat Hingle, and Michael Goff. Scarecrow by Guy Pearce, the ventriloquist Tim Roth, and as always, Carla Gugino.
Carla Gugino, because she was just in everything in the 90s and frankly continues to be in everything to this day.
Hey, look. You got to think, the thing that always surprised me about her is the fact that she was willing to play the mom of kids that were chronologically, the right age to be her kids, where most actresses don't play a mom until they're in their 40s.
That's very true.
Like
That's very true.
I commend her for that, because I was like, yeah, no actress does that, and she just, not, and it's not even like it's like, oh, I have a little child. I mean, they're like 12 and 10.
But I think that also speaks to why she was always getting work, because she wasn't a shallow actress.
Correct.
But that's something for the Carla Gugino podcast that Matt will be starting very soon here. With that being said, that is Matthew's take on the Batman Forever sequel that could have been but never was. We would love to know what you guys think of Matthew's picks, or maybe you have a few picks of your own for what was pitching here. You can let us know on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can find me at Mr. J Ninja.
And until next time, we will be back with another episode of We Are the Batman. Same Bat podcast channel, same Bat time. I screwed that up. Who cares? It's done. It's over with. Matthew, play me out, Matt.